Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc, Episode 42, Bursting Out, Fishman Arlong, Fearsome Attack from the Sea. Episode in a nutshell is a very brief summary of what happened in this episode. So this episode essentially boils down to the beginning of Luffy and Arlong's fight. They fight back and forth, with Luffy only taking it semi-seriously throughout the episode, and then occasionally we get a stop for some speeches, or we'll get a stop to show the audience reaction and have them commentate on what they are seeing while Arlong and Luffy are fighting. And that's it. That's all that happens in the episode, is them engaging in battle. So, now that we have been reminded very briefly about what happened in the episode, it is now time to rank the episode. We'll be ranking first on our mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values to determine the score, followed by the personal ranking list, which is based more on personal opinion and entertainment value. So starting with our mostly objective rank values, we have our single arc main character growth, which is to do with Arlong. Arlong, we learn some things about Arlong and also see some attacks from Arlong. First, we of course see that when Luffy breaks his teeth with a punch, they are able to grow back in. And additionally, he's able to remove his teeth like dentures, have them grow back, and then is able to then use those dentures to attack with his shark teeth in his hands, making them a little bit more deadly, which he does end up using against Luffy. In an attempt at comedy, Luffy also ends up putting one of his shed pairs of teeth in his own mouth, which is very unsanitary, and decides to bite him with that. However, then the comment is, of course, that he has a weak human jaw, and that shark teeth are really only valuable when you have the bite force to go with them. We then have an attack shark on darts, which is where Arlong goes into the sea, picks up speed, and then basically shoots out of the water like a rocket, using his very long sword-like nose to try to attack, which Luffy does manage to evade. Then we have the debut of Arlong's sword, which is a shark saw, which basically is a bunch of like jagged triangles that look like shark teeth attached to a handle. And then the last attack we get introduced to is the shark tooth drill. And that is worth 2 points. Then we have 3 points for an impactful / memorable, moment line, etc. And this to me is where the bias and judgment can come into play. One of the most memorable moments in the series for me is like when Arlong is, accusing Luffy of, being weak, of not being able to do everything on his own. Luffy acknowledges that and says that of course he already knows that he can't fight with swords, can't sail the sea, can't cook, can't even lie, but that's what he has his friends for. They make up for what he lacks, and that is why they work as a team, and why he is a good captain and a good leader. And anyways, obviously that's not in exact words his speech, but that's the gist and essence of the speech, which I always felt was very meaningful because it does, to the audience, acknowledge that Luffy has his faults, but the team that he puts together as his crew balance and make up for those faults, ultimately ending up with a very strong but small group of people that we follow throughout the series. So I always found that that little speech was very memorable and also meaningful, which is why I decided to give it 3 points, bringing us to 5 points. And then we have positive 4 points for our multi-arc Main character growth, and these of course are Luffy's new attacks. We have the Gamu Gamu shield and then the Gamu Gamu finger net, which he uses in the battle against Arlong, which unfortunately at this point, because he's not really taking it seriously, is a really defensive battle. And then that brings us to 9, and then last but not least, we have our world building. And this is the discovery of Nami's room and basically her body of work, all of the sea charts that she's created, all of her sea chart supplies, etc. I didn't count it as like a character thing because it was briefly seen at the end, and the full meaningfulness of it and connection of it is explored, I believe, in the next episode. So I just put it as world building because this is where we land in the room, see the room, and are told what it is, but not why it's important at this point. Which brings us to 13 points. That is over 10. Therefore, this is a 10 out of 10 episode. And that brings our arc ranking so far to in first, the most wicked man of East Blue, Fishman Pirate Arlong. Luffy stands up, end of a broken promise. Proud tall warriors. Dramatic battle of Sanji and Usopp. Then in fourth place, because those episodes that score the same on the mostly objective are just ranked in episode order. We have this episode, Bursting Out, Fishman Arlong, Fearsome Attack from the Sea. Usopp's death, Luffy yet to land, Luffy drowning, Zoro versus Octopus Hatchin, The Witch of Kokoyeshi Village, Arlong's female officer, Survive, the Mother Belle Mare and Nami's family, Luffy in trouble, Fishman versus Luffy pirates, Luffy's best, Nami's courage and the straw hat, reunited, Usopp tells Nami's true story, and then currently in 12th we have the hidden past, female fighter Belle Mare. Now, for my personal ranking, I do appreciate that it does have the speech that is one of my most memorable moments from the early series. I appreciate the attempts at comedy that were taking place during the fight. I even enjoyed the visuals of the fight. However, having said that, I did not necessarily enjoy the standing around talking, the speeches about, Fishman's superiority, or the fact that Luffy wasn't taking it seriously. I also didn't necessarily like how it was very defensive battle on Luffy's part because he wasn't taking it seriously, and how it feels like they did a lot of fighting back and forth, but ultimately, like, Arlong and Luffy took minor injuries, and it's kind of dragging on longer than it needed to. Had they both gone full power from the start, we could have had, a very So, for example, in the previous episodes, the Proud Tall Warriors, dramatic battle of Sanji and Usopp, we got visually appealing fights that were done quickly, so you were still able to engage with them. There was 2 fights, one in the first half, one in the second half. They were done quickly, but they also had, like new moves, visual appeal, effects, etc. This one feels kind of drawn out, and not all of the parts that are they're trying to be comedic about actually land and make you laugh out loud or anything like that. So ultimately, I did enjoy it. I was entertained, but I also felt a lot of negative emotion in the form of frustration at it being dragged out, at Luffy not taking it seriously. And I know Luffy as a character doesn't start fights taking them seriously all the time, but a brief period of time where he doesn't take it seriously before then getting serious is preferable to this entire episode where he did not take it seriously and was just kind of, again, fighting very defensively, which also doesn't really feel fun for Luffy because Luffy usually is a go at him type of guy. So 6 out of 10 is what I gave it. it was a bit disappointing. And that brings our arc ranking so far on the personal side to: in first, Luffy stands up, end of a broken promise. Proud tall warriors, dramatic battle of Sanji and Usopp. Luffy drowning, Zoro vs. Octopus Hatchan. Luffy in trouble, Fishmen vs. Luffy pirates. The most wicked man of East Blue, Fishman pirate Arlong. Usopp's death, Luffy yet to land. Reunited, Usopp tells Nami's true story. Survive, the Mother Bellmare and Nami's family. This episode is all the way down at ninth. Bursting out, Fishman Arlong, fearsome attack from the sea. Then we have the Witch of Kokoyashi Village, Arlong's female officer. The Hidden Pass, female fighter Bellmare. And then in last place so far, we have Luffy's best, Nami's courage, and the straw hat. Bringing us now to the saga rankings, where we will be ranking each of the arcs within the saga against each other. And on our mostly objective rankings so far, Romance Dawn arc is in first place with 86.67%, Orange Town in second with 76%, Baretti arc in third with 68.33%, and the Syrup Village arc currently is in fourth place with 64%. Arlong Park arc so far has a score of 92 out of a possible 150. Then on our personal ranking, we have the Orangetown arc in first place with 74%, Romance Dawn arc in second at 66.67%, Baretti arc third, 52.5%, Syrup Village arc in last place so far, 49%, and Arlong Park arc currently has a score of 87 out of a possible 150. Bringing us now to the final segment, which is our series ranking, where we will be ranking each of the sagas against each other. And so far, the East Blue Saga has a score of 25 out of 80 on the mostly objective side, but on the personal side, only has a score of 14 out of 80. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc, Episode 42, Bursting Out, Fishman Arlong, Fearsome Attack from the Sea. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.